I think at some point in every SSIS developer's career, you end up having to work a lot with the FTP task. So you're downloading files, you're sending files, whatever it may be. And it won't be too long that you work with it that you've realized, you know what, I need this to be dynamic. And so let's take a look in this video and maybe a couple more after it about how to further extend the usefulness of the FTP task by adding in variables, expressions, package configurations, and making this thing really pop. So I have, we'll do this. I've got, we'll do, we'll use FileZilla for this, or what's this, Firefox. So we'll go to the learnitfirst.com FTP. Why did I do this? And so we need to authenticate here. And so that you can do this at home, I will put this up here. So the credentials are, let's see if I can write them right here. So the username is SSIS158, and the password here is, let me get it in red here so that we can see it. The password is just learn it first. Okay, no .com, no anything. So it's SSIS158. The password is learn it first. So we're going to use this for a couple of videos. So I'm going to go ahead and log in. And you could see that there's a chapter 6, and that's where we are. So we're going to go into the chapter 6 folder, and there are 4 different files that are in this folder. Now, for our example, these are really small so that we can just kind of focus on using the FTP task. In my experience in the real world, these may be really big files. This might be 200 megs, it might be 5 gigabytes. It just depends on how big the export was from the source database. So we're going to talk about how to make the retrieval of these files dynamic. Okay, now, and by the way, I would not suggest using an FTP client like built in Firefox or using Windows. I'm a fan of FileZilla. So let's see if I can make that in Yeller. FileZilla. So just go to your search engine of choice, and it's free. It's probably, I guess, the most popular of the open source FTP clients out there. Really well supported. Anyhow, so let's do this. Let's create ourselves a new package. And I'm not going to add in any data flow to this. Let's just strictly so that we can focus as much of our time on the FTP task as we can. Let's just focus on that. The assumption would be that once you've downloaded the file, you would then use it in a data flow, or you would email it, or you'd unzip it, or you would do something with it. But I'm going to leave it to you to do that, because if I did that, then that adds 5 to 10 minutes of stuff that we've covered 100 times already in the video. So, okay, I've got a new package. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to grab my FTP task, bring it over here. Not too difficult to configure this. We go to making a new FTP connection. I will write this in, then I'll zoom in one more time to show you what the values are here. So that's what your settings are going to be, and remember that the password is simply learn it first, all lowercase. Okay, so there's your user account right there. Okay, so those are the things that you have to enter right there. You won't have to change anything else, I doubt. So I say okay. And what is it in the file transfer that you want to do? Well, for this example, I am going to choose to receive files. So up on the Learn It First FTP, I have a series of files that we want to be able to download so that we can work with them. Okay, so I'm going to receive files. And where do I want to receive the files? What is my local path? Is it a variable value? No. The local path, where I want to put them, is just going to be my root of my C drive. And down here, you're going to see that it's going to add, we say, okay, you could see that it added, right here, a connection manager for the existing folder. Okay. Do you want to overwrite the file at the destination? So when we download the file, if it already exists, how do you want to deal with that? Sure, I will overwrite the file. Where is the remote path? Now the remote path is the FTP location. So when I click here, it's actually logging into the FTP. Going to bring us back the list of folders, and we can go to the chapter 6 folder, and you see the files. Now, if you remember, we did a pretty good breakdown of using the FTP task in chapter 4. So I'm not going to recover all of that information. I will go through just some basics here, but if you really want to get more breakdown about all the different aspects and everything, you need to go back to chapter 4 and watch those videos. I'm just going to pick one file for the time being. So we're going to choose O1. And that's all I'm going to do. And so, the assumption again would be that you've got some type of a data flow task that uses the file that is downloaded after the download occurs, right? I'm not going to configure it, but let's go ahead and execute this. Come on, now you move out of my way. And you can see it does take it a while for it to make the connection. The receiving of the file is nothing. It's really small. It just takes a while to make that connection. And sure enough, we go to look, and there's our file. And, it's just got a couple of rows that we have stored in it. And I did actually put real live data in here so that if you chose to do a data flow task, it wouldn't be that difficult to see the effects of it. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to make this more dynamic. And it's not that challenging to do. You'll need variables, so let's make ourselves some variables. So here, we'll have a remote file name variable, remote file name, and that needs to be a string. And so this file name is that. Okay, so I'm just going to change that to be O2 here because I know there's like O1, O2, O9, and 14 are the final. Today is 1, 2, 9, and 14. So O1, O2, O9, and 14. Those are my file names. Okay, so 2010 03 01, 2010 03 02. So that's going to be my remote file name. Let's see, I need to have more space here. Remote file path would be a string, and that's going to be chapter 6. And I do need to make sure that I put in my path delimiters here, so the slashes. If you are unsure, like I'm actually not 100% sure that I've set this up right because I can't remember, is there a slash at the beginning of chapter 6 or not? I just can't remember. So if you are unsure, let me show you a little trick for figuring it out. Now that we've set up our FTP task, I can come over here and I can go look at its properties, and you can see right here what the actual value should be. So yeah, I did actually get it right. So you need to have a preceding and an ending / character there, right? So we're going to replace that with the remote file path variable, and then we're going to replace this with the remote file name. Now, what else could we change with a variable? I mean, certainly you could change the local file path. You can change any of these properties, right? I mean, that's what a variable allows us to do. That's what our expressions allow us to do. I'm simply going to focus on which file and where it is located that we retrieve, okay? So now, to actually set this up, I've got it correctly set up in my remote file name and remote file path variables. How will I now configure the FTP task to do that? Do you know? Expressions, right? So I go to my properties, I click on the expressions ellipsis over here, and okay, so a little confusing here, which one do we use? Okay, don't try to guess at this. simply go down and find it down here. So you're in the properties. Let's move this out of the way to give us a bigger screen. You're in the properties of your FTP task. Go down here and find the name of the property, that you want to change right here. So you want to change the remote path property to be the expression that is from the two variables. Okay, so there you go. So right here, choose remote path, and now go to the expression builder, and you want to build it with your variables. So you need to choose the two. So remote file path plus is our concatenation character. Verify that it works, and it does. It brings in O2. We say OK and run it. And so if it's successful in using the variables and the expressions, it will, in this particular case, it will download file O2. And sure enough, this was from the previous one. You can see that was from 5 minutes ago, and this was the one that just downloaded here at 8:28, so O2. Super easy to do this. Now, let's come back in the next video and let's talk about using the execute package task and creating a reusable FTP task. So I'm going to show you how to do that. See you in the next video.